What's happening, budget builders, and welcome back to the channel. Let's jump back in this Porsche. Alright, first thing we want to do in here to finish up this floor is I'm going to go around all the seams right here. We're going to take our wire brush and be sure we clean up all the surface rust. And then I want to take everything, put our rust reformer on it. This is a Rust-Oleum product. Everything is coated down, nice and dry. We're going to take our multi-seam sealer from Crest Industries and go through all the seams and clean all of those up. You can see I've already hit a few little spots here and there with it as we've been over time while the car's been sitting in here, but we really want to get everything done and get this floor wrapped up. And then once everything is nice and dry, we're going to take this Honeycoat, which is an amber rust proofing spray. Yeah, this stuff stays pliable, so it will not crack or chip down here on your floor, and it's going to basically just coat everything and give it a nice good weather waterproof, and it's going to get down in any kind of seams or anything that are still left. And from what I was told, I do believe this is inside stuff, you know, non-painted. This just goes on top of everything when you're done, and this is going to give us a nice barrier in this floor. I can't see! I'm going to use this large chisel to scrape off any adhesive that's still here from where the side carpet and everything was glued on. We're going to take our vacuum cleaner, suck it all up. Rust converter, a reformer. Hit everything. Right now my main basis is going to be the whole bottom side down here, and then obviously we'll work our way up. Alright, now that the paint is dried, we're going to go ahead and take our seam sealer and get in all the cracks and crevices. You know, one big thing about this stuff is it's going to get in all those joints. I really want this car to be stiff, sound, and solid, no creaks or rattles or anything. Not that I expect there to be any, but the more of this stuff, you know, you might think it's crazy, but you're really gluing these cars together. If you ever notice with a lot of your older American cars and stuff, you get bumps and rattles and stuff going down the road. Don't get me wrong, I love them. With these German cars like the Volkswagen Rabbit and stuff, and these Porsches, they're absolutely loaded down with this stuff, and they really do. They ride nice, and they sound good, and they're good going down the road. And so we want to bring that back with going through and really seam sealing everything, getting a nice coating there so this car's nice, sound, and solid. I'm just using this caulk gun to get it down in the cracks. Oh, I can't see. This is a pretty cool little light. Keep this thing in my pocket. It's the Olight i1R2 EOS. That is perfect for getting in places like that. It's nice to take with you to the junkyard and stuff. Put it on your keychain. Alright. Well, there's the gloopity glop. If you remember, I did welding right there, so there's a little bit of a seam that I went ahead and filled in. Now that that's done, we need to focus on this area. This was that last piece that we needed to fill in. Now that the floor's all in together, we just need to wrap that up, and then we'll be completely done here. What I'm going to do is go ahead and we'll take and make some templates. I'm probably going to run to Harbor Freight and pick up a little metal brake, and we'll go ahead and make these couple pieces so we can get them welded in and filled in there. Now, I haven't had a chance yet, but I just wanted to take a quick second to give a huge shout out to one of our subscribers here locally, Mr. Les Scoggin, for hooking us up with this sweet vintage transmission jack. And this is going to be perfect for picking that motor back up in the Porsche. And I honestly kind of want to restore this thing. It's super cool. I can't remember what brand it was. We were thinking it might be a Snap-on. I had done a little bit of research and looked it up, but it's from the 50s or 60s probably. And it is just super awesome, and I just love the look of this thing. As you know, I am obsessed with vintage, cool old stuff, and for him to reach out to us and then meet us here locally, this was a few months ago, with this thing, and donate it to the channel to be able to bring these cars back to life was super awesome, and I really do appreciate it, and this is going to be a huge help for us. Alright, now that everything's nice and dried and cured, I'm going to go ahead and hit everything with a protective enamel. I had some people commenting, will this whole car be spray painted? No, just the stuff that is obviously going to be all covered up and have carpet on it anyways, and that's under cover there. Alright, now we got our last little piece of the tunnel made here. As you can see, we cut it out to shape, and because of the bend, we put a couple notches in there so it'll bend around for us. I'm going to go ahead and set it up in here, and then we'll start spot welding the floor, and then we'll tack it all the way around. So when some of y'all saw the front lip that we put on front, you're kind of wondering what was going on back here, and it mentioned probably need the rear spoiler to go with this. So I'm excited to show you something that we got with all that lot of parts. All right, go ahead. Yep, a tea tray. I don't know about y'all, but I've always loved these on these cars. I think it really gives it the look and kind of ties the whole thing together, especially when we do a little bit more of what we have going on with this car, and I think it'll look really awesome. We got a super good deal on this thing, and I think it'll be super cool on there. So let's go ahead and pull this rear lip off. I got some measurements from Chris about where to mount this thing. Let's go ahead and clean our deck lid up and go ahead and see about mounting this thing really quick, just so we can button up the rear of this whole car and kind of, I know we're one project here, one project there, one project here, but it's going to slowly tie them together, and I think it'll really come all together here in the short future. Alright, so I guess my biggest issue at this point, and y'all know it, I'm not a big body man, but I can figure a few things out, but there's so many dents and dings and wrinkles and crinkles and crunches in this lid, top side and underneath, and the problem is everything's double ribbed all around here, so it's really hard to actually get up underneath to try to straighten anything or anything. So at this point, I'm kind of undecided. It's not super rusty, got a couple little spots here, but that's no problem for us to fix up. I guess at this point, I'm kind of undecided whether we're going to use this one or potentially find a replacement. If y'all have some suggestions on what we can do with this thing to get it looking better, let me know. Or if you potentially have a decent replacement for this lid. I'm not exactly sure what all will fit on there, but I know at least the 70s and 80s will fit on there. So if you have one inexpensively priced that's decent shape, obviously trying to keep this all on a decent budget. Alright, one thing I want to mess with, something we picked up on our last parts hauling trip where we dug some of these other balance parts and everything out, was this really cool fiberglass Targa top. It's pretty cool. You know, I like the idea. It was actually honestly going to cost a lot more for us to purchase a factory style Targa top, and it still needed to be recovered. So we were able to get this really reasonable. Everything up top's decent shape. The bolts have come loose, so we need to work that around. And then the rear here, you can see this is attached. Kind of goofy how the bolt's made on that, but it's broken off on this side. So what I want to do is figure out how we can rebuild and repair this and make this thing look decent. Maybe put some felt back in it. I might put a couple supports in it. I'm not sure. I think it'll be good enough once it's actually mounted in there and everything. Oh. But I definitely want to sand the whole top down and get a nice finish. It's got this goofy, like bed liner style finish on here, and I'm really not a huge fan of it. But first thing I want to do is we'll take these little Phillips screws out and we'll pull all the seals off so we can get everything off there. I'm going to keep flipping this thing up and down and back and forth. And then we'll get all the bolts and everything off here and start figuring out how we can make this stuff. What am I doing? Whoop-ow. Well, that didn't work with the snot. Apparently I don't have any decent number 1 bits. Yeah, I'm talking to myself. Alright, so y'all are probably going to laugh to yourselves, but I used some cardboard and some tape and some newspaper to make and give it that nice edge and a nice backing plate basically to sit on, and I taped it all with the Scotch tape so we have a nice smooth surface that it won't stick to. You know, we want it obviously to stick right here. So let's go ahead, and now that I've got all this cleaned up and I've got this on here, we'll go ahead and start mixing up our fiberglass and seeing if we can get a couple layers on to kind of start with and see what we can do. Now I will reiterate, I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm just gonna attempt to do something. Alright, so here's some pieces that I cut up of the fiberglass. Here's our resin, which I'm gonna pour in here. This is our fancy mixing bowl. I probably just put way too much in there. Looks good though. And then I'm going to scientifically calculate and measure the hardener that goes in there. Looks about right. And then here's our mixing tool. Alright, and then, I don't know, I just start dabbing this stuff in here and getting some resin on it, I guess. And make a huge mess. Ugh. Y'all are probably just like, what the heck is this guy doing? Because that's what I'm thinking to myself right now. Alright, well there's a start to our madness. First thing I'm going to do real quick is go ahead and trim up just before this stuff gets too terribly hard. Which it already is pretty hard. Alright, now I've gone ahead with my 220 grit, my side grinder, and kind of cleaned everything up. Obviously we're pretty solid, but we're still a little flimsy. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is continue this process a few times, layering it up until we get a nice solid piece like we have here. I'm going to do one layer from the back, and we'll do a few more from the front, get it nice and thick, and then we can clean everything up and shape it just like the other side.
Why? No, we're gonna have to split the seam when we bend it. For it to go around the bend, you gotta split the seam. I didn't mean two separate pieces, but on the bend, the only way you'll have to be able to not have a straight piece is put a split in. You get what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm saying.
Alright, well there it is. It's not perfect. Obviously I could use a little bit of filler to get the little crack, you know, your little bit of goopiness look in there. But I've got it pretty smooth, and it's actually really strong. It's actually probably stronger than what was originally there. I don't know if it's the fiberglass difference or what, maybe how this was molded. But it seems to be really strong. I'm going to go ahead and slap it on the car really quick. Let's make sure everything looks like it's going to line up good, and then we can here shortly drill our holes and figure out our mounting hardware. Alright, since we're at a little bit of a standstill with the car itself there, with everything drying and all, I think it's time to go ahead and jump into this motor. Let's kind of get a little bit better of an assessment on it so we know where to go with it, so we can get this thing done and get this thing running so we can drive this car. Now, first thing I want to do here, so we can see a little bit better of the internals on this engine, let's go ahead and pull the upper and lower rocker covers off of this thing on both sides so we can see everything looks in there.
You don't have any flapper bit, do you?
I'm not sure. Hey, do we have an oil pan, Dad?
What?
An oil pan?
I
Free?
imagine you do.
Can I have one quick, please? Sorry. Sorry. I like making messes.
Yeah, somebody got some.
Alright, so we've got both covers, upper and lower, off. And honestly, everything looks really good on the inside. I went ahead and checked all of the head studs to see if any of them were broken, because that's a common issue on these. And they all seem really good. They all seem good. Obviously, torquing them is the way to do it, but I just wanted to check to see if any were already loose. From what I noticed on here, it does have the main link. It does have a main link, and so originally when these things were put together, they were full chains, and if you did any kind of a head job or anything, you broke your chain, you put a connecting link in between there. And so it does tell me at some point in time the heads have been off of this. And so honestly, everything looks really good. The only thing that's concerning for me, and I don't know if y'all will be able to see this or not, but she's got some glitter in her. She's a little glittery. So I'm a little concerned with that, which sucks because I'll show you here in a second. Everything actually looks really good in here other than that. But there's a little more shavings that I like to see. But man, if this thing had just had a head job or something, maybe that's why it's like it is. It sucks because I was hoping to maybe just get this thing together and run it, but I definitely don't want to destroy a somewhat valuable engine. But maybe do maybe not a full rebuild if everything looks good on the bottom end. Maybe just go ahead and pull the heads off to check everything out. We have some crust on the valves anyways that it wouldn't hurt to clean up just before we run it. I think everything would be good other than I don't want to stick any kind of valves, but now seeing that little bit of metal shavings it looks like in there, I don't want to destroy this engine if it already has problems. I'd rather be safe than sorry. And so we've ordered a full gasket kit. Obviously there's some other stuff that will need to be ordered for this engine if we go ahead and do that. If y'all would like to see a full rebuild video on this, let me know. We can jump into ourselves. What the heck, we can do it. I'm not scared of it. You really see just how good everything looks down in there. Other than the grime up in here, but I mean, you got that little bit of that layer. It's a little bit of silvery down in the bottom there. What's nice is the case really doesn't look too stained or anything. The camshafts don't look too stained, so that's nice. It looks like it probably had good oil changes and stuff. But we may want to dig in a little bit. lots of silicone on that sucker. As you can see, this side looks even better than the other side. Look how clean it is in there. See, just now when I was doing that, I was only prying on the area where the gasket was, not either of the surfaces either side. We don't want any scarring there, obviously. Well, with everything going on, all the head studs look really good. I guess that's your head studs, jug studs, whatever. None of them are broken, so that's really good. Everything looks pretty straightforward there. I guess let's really quick come up underneath here, pull that bottom cap off, so we can go ahead and get the rest of what oil is left in there out and kind of see what it looks like up where the crank is. Alright, what we have under here is all 10 mil bolts. Okay, so it does actually have a no chunks of anything in here. It does have a magnetic drain plug. And there's no chunks or anything. Looks like paint chips almost. Weird. You know, even with all of this, I see, you know, there's aluminum, it looks like, potentially. You know, if this thing is some kind of rebuild, though, it's a possibility. I don't see any copper, which would, you know, when you start seeing that, you know you're down into bearing surface. Let's kind of take a peek up in the hole here. Up in the bum of this engine. Well, it honestly doesn't really look terrible anywhere in here. Tell me what y'all think. Where should we go from this point? Should we seal everything back up, clean it up the best we can, get it to run maybe outside of the car, or should we go ahead and tear in? Maybe pull the heads off, pull the jugs off, check everything over, see how everything looks. Obviously don't want to destroy the engine. I don't think we will. But we've got to get an idea of what we see here. Everything's super clean, so I think as far as condition, everything's really good. We may just possibly have a bearing that's on its way out. Honestly, getting it to run would quite easily tell us what we need. We are still short at this point. I do need a distributor for this engine, and I would like to go carbureted. Initially, my first thought was to build my own plenum, put some carburetors on it. If I can find a reasonable set of original style carburetors for this engine, obviously it'd be, I guess would be the little bit earlier 2.2 and 2.4 carburetors. We'd go with a set of those. So if y'all have some of those around, any of my subscribers, or you know anyone that has a decent set that's reasonably priced, let us know. You see what we have going on here. Tell me what you think we should do from this point. Would you like to see a full rebuild on this engine? Or at least the top side of things? Let me know. Alright, well we've got the floor complete and solidified, and I'm really happy with the way it turned out, and I hope y'all are too. So, well, we've also started digging into this motor a little bit. Obviously everything looks really good other than that little bit of metallic in there, but honestly I'm not sure if it's bad enough really to warrant anything. Tell me what y'all think. Where we should go with this, what y'all would like to see with it. I'm going to put a little bit of a parts list down in the description. Obviously, as we start wrapping things up and finishing parts on these cars, like the interior, we're going to need a lot of the little bits and pieces. And if y'all have any of those bits and want to sell those, hit us up and let us know. I didn't realize the extent of working for myself and getting these projects going and everything that it really took, even though we'd already have a basis for a channel, to try to get everything going that we needed to, especially on the business side of everything. And it's kind of kicking my butt a little bit, but as everything's starting to smooth out and we're getting in the flow of things, really going to push to get more content out at a more moderate level. And I will tell y'all this, at this point, starting this week, next week, we will have a video aired every Monday evening and every Friday evening. Peace out, and catch y'all on the flip side.